सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। So we had seen our understanding of God. First aspect is as the absolute truth, the supreme Brahman. The Lord is infinite reality, which is changeless, nameless, formless, attributeless, of the nature of Sat, Chit and Anand. From that standpoint, there is no creation, there is no world, there is only one absolute truth. But we still see the world. So how is it explained? So then we saw that there is a power of Brahman called Maya, and using that power of Brahman, that Maya becomes the Ishvara, and as Ishvara he is the creator. I am using the word he, but that Ishvara has no gender. So Ishvara is omnipotent, Sarva Shaktiman, Sarva Vyapi, all pervasive, Sarvagnya, all knowing, and of the nature of compassion. Also that same Ishvara is Karma Phala, Karma Adhyaksha, who presides over everyone and who empowers everyone to act. To the human being, that Ishvara has given us that equipment by which we have freedom to think, to choose. And so as per our karma, the laws of this world are also created by Ishvara. So the law of karma is created by Ishvara, the capacity to act is provided to us by Ishvara. We have a choice, how do we use these laws and how do we work. Results are also given by Ishvara according to these laws. So there is no partiality involved in any of this. So this is what we saw, Brahman and Ishvara. And last time we had left you with a riddle of the ant and the elephant. Did you think about it in the context of this? In the context of the topic that we are talking about? Anyone? Complete? Googly? So the ant goes around finding the elephant, and the ant finally finds the elephant and asks the elephant to come out of the lake, and goes around the elephant, checks the elephant, and then gives a sigh. So the elephant asks, what happened? So the ant says that I have lost my swimsuit and I was just checking whether you have stolen it. And that was the story. You know, it ends with this very nice message. It says that, it's a sarcastic message. It says that perhaps an elephant may fit into the swimsuit of an ant, but God cannot fit into the conceptions of human mind. Think, elephant may fit into the swimsuit of an ant, but God cannot fit into the conceptions of human mind. Because that which is infinite, how many concepts we have about that Lord? And each one makes concepts according to their own understanding. None of these concepts can define the reality. You may have heard that saying that God defined is God defiled. That one cannot define God. One can only indicate. And one can only experience. And how can one experience God? Gurudev used to give a very nice quotation for that. He used to say that if you want to prove God, improve yourself. If you want to prove God, improve yourself. Meaning what? If I keep improving myself in the understanding of Vedanta, and if I keep dropping the false identification that I have with the body, mind, intellect, I can experience God as my own nature. There is no other way to prove God. इसका स्विंग बंद करो, इसका स्विंग बंद करो. One point we should always remember, that logic, as far as God is concerned, logic cannot, there are two types of logic. One is called supportive logic, other is called proving logic. So as far as God is concerned, every type of logic which we give will be only a supportive logic. It cannot prove. You cannot show God like an object, hence proved, so this is God. It can only support that because of these reasons we believe that God is there. Because of these reasons we say that the nature of God is infinite. Because of these reasons we say God is Ishvara also. We can only give supportive logic. One cannot prove and define that this alone is God. Because that which is infinite, the word infinite also is a limitation on that which is infinite. How can one word define that? So the understanding has to be clear that if I have to experience, if I have to prove God, it has to be an immediate experience. And that's why Gurudev said that if you want to prove God, improve yourself. Because God cannot be proved by some external reasons or some external experiences or even internal experiences. Some blue light, some white light, some feeling of absolute peace. All those are experiences of the body, mind, intellect. They come, they go, depending on the temperament. The only way to experience God is this, that rise above the false identification. For that, what conviction we need that there is that state of Godhood, which is infinite, which is in my own personality. That is the supportive logic. So having understood this much, that which is infinite appears as Ishvara and appears as this whole creation. So our concept of God, if you see, it begins like this. It begins with the absolute truth which is infinite. That same absolute truth becomes the Ishvara as the creator of the universe, and we saw the attributes of that Ishvara. And that same Ishvara appears as all this. So for us, all this also is divine. So it is not a God which we are seeking up there in the heaven. If you see the 10th chapter of the Gita, Bhagavan says that I am the sapidity in the water, I am the heat in the fire, I am the strength among the strong, I am the wisdom among the intelligent. That is called Vibhuti Yoga, 10th chapter. So to see the one in many, so in all this, everything is divine. So for us the conception of God is not some weird concept of God sitting up there. All this is divine, and hence the Hindus worship everything. People may think that Hindus are all superstitious people, they are worshipping stones and plants and trees and animals and what is all this. But why do we worship all these? Because each of these is an expression of the divine. And not only that, we worship everyone. Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. Each one is divine for us. So that is the third aspect. One is Brahman, second is Ishvara, third is the world itself is the manifestation of the Supreme. Fourth is the form. To be able to experience God in this nature, either of these three, as Brahman or Ishvara or as the Jagat, is not possible unless the mind becomes single pointed and pure. Because mind needs one thing to hold on to, otherwise it is very fickle, it keeps wandering. And so we say that the concept of Ishvara is intellectually very nice to understand that it is a totality. But how to relate? Because our mind thinks in terms of pictures only. It thinks in terms of sound. So name and form is what the mind thinks in terms of. Hence, one particular form of the Lord is what we call as the ishta devta. The form which is most dearest to me. It could be any form. Rama, Krishna, Durga, Devi, Hanuman, any form. Arunachal, any form. For Ramana Maharshi, that mountain Arunachal was the symbol of Shivji. So it is not just the traditional forms. It is even any upasana that one does, considering that as divine, as Ishvara, the bhav has to be, this is the symbol of Ishvara.
It's not a family favor.
It can be that also. No problem.
It doesn't have to be. No ishta devta doesn't have to be your.
Not necessary. If you are not inspired by that form, your family's devta does not have to be ishta devta. I will come to this concept of Bhagavan and devta. There are two different aspects. This, what we are talking right now, is the manifestation of Ishvara. Now, if some of you can help and remove those cartons which are lying there in between, more people will be able to get in and sit. So any form of the Lord it could be a traditional form as what we saw. See, first of all, why is a form even required? Because many people have that. Then we will go into what are the forms required. And why is a form even required? Because the human mind, can it think of anything which is without a form? Think about it. It is the way the mind works. Suppose I say apple, what comes to your mind? Apple. Red color apple. See, that is the conditioning again. Why can't you think of green apple? But we will all think red apple. What is happening there? Is the AC too cold? And just close it or reduce the temperature, increase the temperature. Because you see, the thought flow has to be, it takes time to build and lift the minds of everybody. And we are talking about God, and every time a disturbance happens, that breaks. My thought flow breaks, your thought flow breaks. Again the effort has to be put to connect and again lift. So if the disturbances are minimum, then that is better. So we were saying that why is a form required? Yeah. So when we think of any object, we think only in terms of the form. If we say apple, we think of the form of the apple. If we say pen, we think of the form of the pen. If we think of love, what comes to the mind? Family, near, dear ones. Some picture comes to the mind. Some memory comes to the mind. So I'm talking about now emotion. Earlier we saw object is emotion. If we say success, money, awards, achievements, feeling of elevation, power. Each of these, there would be some image associated with these, which will immediately come to the mind, or maybe a successful person, or some role model that I have who has been successful, whatever. Some picture comes to the mind always. So if we say God, what comes to the mind? Any form that you have been traditionally associated with from your childhood, family, customs, whatever it is. If I say infinity, what comes to the mind? Sky, symbol of infinity. Space. Sea, okay. So if you see, all the time there will be some picture in the mind. One place I asked, if you think of infinity, what comes to the mind? They say Infinity Mall. That was a complete googly for me. I didn't realize ki ore baap re. Because it was a youth camp. Youth camp, na? So they are thinking infinity means Infinity Mall. Straight away. So mind will always think in terms of some picture only. And so if we say that, okay, I don't believe in form, where will the mind focus on? If I have to think about Ishvara, what will the mind focus on? So Om also is a form only. You can focus on Om, but Om also is a form. So form is unavoidable. You see the cultures which have denied form. Have they remained formless? In Christianity, there is no form. There's supposed to be no form, but is there not the form? Cross itself is the form, and many places Jesus is there on the cross. That also is the form. Mother Mary also is the form. Buddhism, Buddha denied form, Buddha denied Veda, Buddha denied so-called concept of God also.
But did Buddha study the Veda?
No.
That's how they showed in the serial that he very helpless with the Veda.
No, as a king he might have studied. We don't know about that.
That's what they depicted in the serial.
See, the serial, I don't know what is the basis and the authenticity, because many of them, they put their own things into that serial. As a king's son, as a prince of Kapilavastu, he may have even studied, we don't know. Yeah, it is possible that he may have studied. And he remained silent. The thing is that when they asked him, do you believe in God? He remained silent. And when they asked him, do you believe in the Veda? He remained silent. But his silence was interpreted as denial. And yes, Veda he openly denied also. Because lots of people at that time, because of the misinterpretation of the Veda, were only indulging in animal sacrifices and the lower forms of worship. So he denied the Veda, saying that you don't have to follow that. So anyway, the point is that Buddha did not want form. He spoke about suffering, he spoke about vairagya, he spoke about finding going beyond desire, the middle path, all that. But today the maximum idols, the tallest idols are of Buddha only. J. Krishnamurti did not want to be called as a guru, did not want form, did not want followership, did not want a religion. But now he himself is people have made him only as their guru. There is a following of JK only. So it is not possible for human mind to remain without form. And there is nothing primitive about that idea. Please understand. It is the functioning of the human mind, which one cannot go against. Now comes the next question, that are these forms real or are they cooked up by the human being? Because there are many people who believe that God did not, these forms are made by human beings. God doesn't exist in these forms. In fact, some of them who are very staunch believers, they would even say that God did not create man, man created God. That we saw last week, right? The whole concept of God has been created to enforce morality, to enforce a certain code of conduct. So include some fear into the lives of people so that they will remain on certain track. So are these forms created by human beings or do these forms even exist? What do you think? Created by human beings. Why do you say created by human beings?
God is infinite. How did this form evolve by him? He is not evolved. Someone with knowledge has evolved them so that he can follow.
Why not? Why not God who can manifest in these forms?
God can manifest in anything.
So now are you not contradicting? If you say God is infinite and God can manifest in anything, and then we are saying God did not manifest in these forms, human being created these forms. Is there no contradiction?
When a devotee is in an intense devotion, his imagination forms.
So because of the imagination of the devotee, these forms have got created? Or is it that these forms exist and the devotees have been able to have the experience and the darshan of these forms? Please tell me.
These would have existed, and because it's beyond human mind to kind of comprehend so many of these things that we don't realize our own limitations. So because of logic, you try to deny it. The fact that they existed is why we portray it in such a way.
Right. Right. That's why they manifest in the form of. Even that can be challenged by people saying it is your imagination that you are seeing the form there. See,
as you have love for the Lord, it just comes to you.
no, but the question here is that love for that Lord presupposes that you are already visualizing that Lord in that form. Then that form is manifesting. So it is a creation of your mind. It is not there actually. That's the argument. It's something to think about. Yes.
The human being or the human mind needs something to hold on to. So the human being or the mind creates that image as a form to hold on to it and gives it the name of God. So actually it's like that movie Oh My God, you've seen it. And that fellow died, they make him God and they start doing it.
So challenge you from your birth, you are in certain surrounding where it's been told to you that God, you just, and that way you just keep praying and you create the love.
No, that is understood. That is a tradition. So from childhood that has been there. That is not the question here. Question here is that those forms which you are worshipping from childhood, they don't exist. That is a denial. They don't exist at all. They are created by some human being at some point in time, and generations after generations have been following it. So why should we follow it today? That is the argument. That form of the Lord doesn't even exist. And so we are worshipping just some idol.
There are so many forms that we have seen who have gone away. So there must have been those forms were there. It's just
Yes.
because we have not seen them does not mean that we
Example?
Or Gandhiji, like
see a
after 200,
Mahatma
300
Gandhi,
years, people
you
would
see a
not
Gurudev,
See,
you see anything
Anyone.
that is human being.
So this year of Bhavan has come as a human being as avatar.
See, avatar is a different idea. So if you say Krishna, that itself people don't believe. In spite of evidences available about Ramayana and Mahabharata, our conditioning still is that Ramayana and Mahabharata are myth. They are only nice stories to learn morals from, but they have not even happened.
Even recently on Ramayana, they had those two botanists who discovered that entire path of Lord Ram and
Yeah.
they were able to actually prove that
Right. So one is this, see, avatar concept, understandable that the form Ram and Krishna. What about others?
even if you don't believe in the avatar concept, there was some form, right? Say he was human. I mean, he took birth as human that we believe. There is people who may not believe it's an avatar, but that was that form.
No, but do you think that Shivji was human? I am talking about those forms. Ganesha, Shivji, Durga, Shakti, Devi, all these. Because that's where the issue comes. They were not manifesting as humans. Vishnu, Brahma, so many of these. Did they even manifest? And what all they show in the serial makes you really wonder कि ये भगवान है कि कौन है ये? कि why is this suddenly Bhagwan feeling jealous now? Why is now this? Something happened na in that Shiva serial, Mahadev, something happened, I don't know what. I तो don't watch those serials, I don't have time to see. And how many people come to me and ask, क्या शिवजी ऐसा कर सकते हैं? I said, क्या दिखाए मुझे, क्या पता भाई? I don't know what they have shown, something they have shown in that. No, it was not Shivji, it was Sati or Parvati getting jealous of something. So then one really wonders कि ये क्या है, because they are human only, or can Bhagwan go through all these? Important point is to understand that, because until we don't understand this fact, Shraddha will not come. One is still always doubting कि पता नहीं मैं किसकी पूजा कर रहा हूँ, ये है भी कि नहीं है. कैसे भी कर लो, कुछ भी हो जाए, मेरी इच्छा पूर्ण हो जाए तो बस. अभी पता नहीं भगवान है नहीं है, जो भी है पता नहीं. नारियल किसको चढ़ाया, मैंने चढ़ा तो दिया. अभी that is the shaky ground on which our Shraddha is. So I am not going to prove to you, I am going to just say what I believe based on what we have understood from the Shastra. First and foremost is that all these forms are revelations to great masters, and you will find the description of these forms in the Vedic literature. Now, if you debate on the authenticity of that fact, then there is nothing more that one can talk about after that. If you say that Vedic literature is written by some saints, our understanding is just like the scientists like Newton or Archimedes or whoever. To them the truths are revealed. They have only written it down. It's a revelation of something which is existing. Law of gravity was existing. Archimedes principle is existing. And they are in search of that, trying to find a reason why things fall down, and that answer reveals to them. And they have mentioned it after that. So they are not called authors of, they are called the compilers. They have, in Vedic, in Sanskrit language we call the rishis as not mantra karta but mantra drashta. They are the ones to whom the mantras are revealed. So when the mind is pure, single pointed and wanting to know the truth manifests in different forms. So one is that the Vedic declarations you will find all these, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, all these forms you will find in the Vedic declaration. So one is the Shruti which is revealing. Two is the same form reveals to different rishis at different points in time. See, earlier days this technology was not there, that what somebody discovered or somebody to him that was revealed will be communicated immediately to everybody. So if these same forms don't exist, how is it that you will find in multiple places the description of the same form when the revelations are to different people? Second point. Third point, logically speaking, why is it that infinite cannot manifest in these forms? Why do we believe that these forms are only created by human beings? Infinite can manifest in whichever form. If infinite can take an avatar and come in the form of Krishna, why can't that infinite manifest in any specific form that it chooses to manifest? Third point. Fourth point, across the culture, you won't see only in India. Across various cultures through the world, you will find the depiction of Brahmaji is the same. Yes. Even Saraswati Devi. There's a book called Hinduism in Space Age. If you can get hold of that book, get hold of that book. In that you will find the Japanese depiction of Brahmaji. If I tell you that okay, Singapore, Malaysia, Bali, Indonesia, all this, then you will say that okay, Indian culture only went there. But Indian culture didn't go to Japan. Indian culture didn't go to Mesopotamia. Different cultures across the world in different periods of history have shown that expression of God in the similar way, like Brahmaji. 4 heads Brahmaji will have. Old man. They may differ. Here we say sitting on a lotus. There they won't say sitting on a lotus. There they may have some other depiction there. I think in Chinese also they have some 4 old. Yeah. Chinese or Japanese, I don't remember now. There are 4 heads and that is depiction of Brahmaji is there. I'll tell you exactly which one it is. Maybe Thailand, yeah. Yeah. Hinduism in Space Age. So that is another reason to believe that these forms do exist. Experiential level, I am giving you Shruti. Last time I said Shruti, Yukti and Anubhuti. Shruti Pramana, I told you that in the Vedic literature you find the descriptions available. 2, you will find this in many different places across the different cultures, and logically it is possible for the infinite to manifest in any form. Experience wise, there are so many saints to whom these forms have revealed. Some of them have done the upasana of that form and to them it has been revealed. Some of them have not even done the upasana of that form, but the form has revealed itself. In fact, the Vedic literature says, if you want to do that experiment, you can do. It requires a lot of time, effort, purity of mind, etc. The Vedic literature says that the mantras of the Veda are such that when you chant those mantras, the vibrations of those mantras will manifest that form in front of you. I'll give you a simple example, which some of you may be aware of. Do you chant Ganapati Atharva Shirsha? You know Ganapati Atharva Shirsha is generally chanted during Ganapati festivals and all that. This Ganapati Atharva Shirsha is a Upanishad. Ganapati Atharva Shirsha Upanishad found in the Veda. And in that is the description, those mantras are there. When you chant those mantras, Gakara Purva Rupam, Akaro Madhyama Rupam, like that it goes. If you chant those mantras, even if you don't know the form of Ganesh, you have not seen the form of Ganesh, you keep chanting that mantra and you will see the form of Ganesh manifesting in front of you. So even as a science of sound, it is proved. Lots of research has been done on the power of these mantras. So you will find, you chant the Shri Suktam, those triangles of that Shri Yantra will be formed in that same order. So even as a science of sound, you will find that the mantras which are written down there, when you chant them without knowing that form, without meditating on that form, but that form will manifest in front of you. It's just like music. If you chant a particular raga, specific things will happen. That's why you have morning raga, evening raga, all that. So you chant Megh Malhar, rain will come. If you chant Deepak Rag, fire will light. All that happens. The science of sound. So even if you don't know the form, but you chant those, the form will manifest. So these are some of the reasons. Experience-wise, logic-wise, scriptural-wise. These are the reasons because of which we say that these forms do exist and it is not our mere imagination. That these great masters have experienced, have had those revelations, then they have written it down. So then it becomes easy for you and me to just hold on to those forms and worship the Lord through that form. But it is not necessary that Bhagwan is only those forms. That is another way to understand. You can think about Bhagwan in any way you like, because infinity will manifest in that form. If you invoke that infinity in that particular way, so if you think that Bhagwan, is Krishna Bhagwan, in the modern day context, he wears a blue jeans and a yellow t-shirt, and he will manifest as blue jeans and yellow t-shirt. It's not necessary that he has to come in this form of the dhoti and the pitambar and one vanamala and one basuri only. That form also exists. So one is that these forms do exist. And those who have devotion or those who even don't have devotion, you invoke these forms, you will have the experience of these forms. The idea of knowing all this is only to have Shraddha, that I am not worshipping some idol, or I am not just worshipping some concept of God which I don't know whether exists or doesn't exist. So these forms do exist, and you can create any mixture of forms you want.
But like Lord Ganesh, if you look at the form, is beyond our understanding that how a form like this will exist.
Because we think in the gross form. Because we think only as a body. So human body is so small, elephant head is so big, so how will it exist? And then because we understand the symbolism, so we say that this is only symbolic, this is not factual. But these are all subtle forms. Just like in the dream. I am giving you example of dream only to make you aware of the subtle nature of thought. The limitation that the physical body has, or the five elements, things created by these gross five elements have, that limitation is not there in thought. No? In the dream, what all we imagine, does logic work there? The limitations of human body are not there in the thought form. So the size, the weight, all that, suddenly you can fly in this human body. When we are here, we can't even imagine flying, and we will be restricted by whatever, the weight and the gravity and all that. But in that subtle plane, those limitations don't exist. And right now we are still talking only in the terms of thought level. That which is beyond thought, there is so many more aspects to that. So that this is what is the conditioning of human mind. That we will try to see God through the limitation of our senses and the mind. And that's why these difficulties come.
Swamiji, why do you have so many gods compared to other religions?
Yeah, because suppose I don't like form of Ganesh ji and there is only Ganesha in your culture. You are finished, na? What will you do after that? Forms are according to your, you can choose according to your own temperament, your own bhavana. I like the form of Shivji. Also, as Gurudev said, we are not idol worshippers, we are ideal worshippers. So every idol represents an ideal also. So if I like the ideal of peace, equanimity, balance, contemplation, then I may love Shivji. If I love the ideal of keep smiling all the time in spite of all the difficulties in life, I may love Krishna. Different forms represent different ideals also. Yeah, so your temperament, your bhavana, then you choose whichever form you like and focus on that form. So many forms are only for that reason. Now, you can imagine God in any form that you like, worship the Lord in that form, and you experience. The important point is not the form. Please always remember that. Important point is not just the form. Important point is not what you offer to the form, not what you do to the form. Important point is the bhavana, because of which the surrender happens of the ego. Form is the means towards that. Now, why only a form has to be used? Why not I use a... Today so many people do that, Put one dot on the wall, keep staring at that. See the tip of the flame. Different methods of concentration are there. Why do I need a human form only? Why can't I worship God? Even this is God. As per our understanding, everything is divine. So this is also God, this is also divine. Why can't I say that this is divine? Why do I need a human form? So even if you are worshipping Shivlinga or Shaligram, you are not thinking of it as stone, na? You are thinking of it as Shiva only, which is again a human form.
So there are some characteristics which you are trying to absorb from this. If you try to worship, say, a TV or a mic.
So even TV or a mic has characteristics. Now you can say that TV reflects everything. Whatever is put into it, it is an empty box, it reflects whatever is put inside it. So I am also like that, I become empty, whatever Bhagavan wants will do through me. So TV is Bhagavan. Can I say that?
To make you realize that this human birth is the birth which we can free out the cycle and realize get an ultimate object, to get the ultimate object. So that's how you relate it in the human.
Okay. Most important is that point. We have emotion, and surrender can be invoked. Whatever invokes surrender in my heart, that is the form which I worship. And the human form will invoke surrender. Other forms are difficult to invoke surrender from. But the human form will invoke surrender. Plus there are different leelas which are there of that same form. So Shiv Puran is there, which will tell you all about Shivji and his leelas and how he is and what kind of things have happened. That's why we have clear distinction. Please understand, Vedic literature is different from Puranic literature. Is different from Smriti. Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Itihas. These are 4 different types of literature that we have. Why is there a need to distinguish all this? What we do is we combine all these and say together this is all superstition, mythology. The very fact that these are divided into 4, Shruti means revealed knowledge. Smriti means that which is written by the Vedic, by the saints and the sages. Itihasa means that which has actually happened. It's a recorded, it's the events which have been recorded. historical. And Purana means mythological stories, which we don't say have actually happened, which are created by great rishis and which have a different purpose. So if you read the Puranic literature, some of it will be futuristic predictions which are embedded in the Puranas. Some are poetic descriptions, some are mystical descriptions, some are given purely as exaggerated descriptions to invoke devotion in our heart for that particular form. So the reason why we have distinguished these into these categories is to make us very clear that yes, there is a section of literature which is mythological, which is mystical, which has not actually happened. But that does not deny that there are other things which have happened. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata, etc., which have happened. Why do we call only these two as itihasa? Why not everything else? Because there is a clarity that these two are recorded history. It's a part of the historical culture of our country. And so it is itihasa. And the others are Puranic. They are mythological. So the idea is that the form will invoke that surrender in us. And the human form especially, you can connect to, because you know, okay, if Shiva is there, these are the qualities of Shiva, these are the leelas of Shiva, this is how Shiva is. Do you actually think Samudra Manthan would have happened? You just think about that. When we say that Shivji took up the wish and he drank, do you think that there was actually a Samudra Manthan? So up there in the heaven there is an ocean, and then there's a mountain inside that, and there is a Swasuki, and then they are churning, and then the Amrut came out, and then it fell in India in 4 places, so that is where the Kumbh Mela is done. It is not like that. When the description is given in the Puranic literature, one is very clear that this is a symbolic description. It is not we are saying that actually these things have happened up there and so now we are worshipping Shivji because Shivji drank that poison. So what is to be dismissed as a myth, or not as a myth in the sense it's a story, and what is not to be dismissed as a story, that clarity we must have.
So the Puranas are mythological and something the stories could have. But the Vedas, like the Shruti, Smriti and the Itihasa comes under the Veda?
No, there are 4 different categories of literature. Shruti is the revealed knowledge which the Vedic masters have compiled. They have not written those as their compositions. It's whatever is revealed to them about the nature and about themselves, about the Lord, is written down by them. That is also we call it as apaurushaya. It is divine knowledge, it is not human knowledge. It is not a product of human thinking. But Smriti is a product of human thinking, and Smritis change by time. So Smriti is about code of conduct of daily life of that particular time. So there are many Smritis. Yajnavalkya Smriti, Manu Smriti, Parashar Smriti. Different sages have written that okay, in this particular time, how is it that we should live? Because times have changed. It talks about dharma, it talks about 4 stages of life, it talks about the ashram vyavastha, varna vyavastha, all that. So that is written by the saints and sages. And itihasa again is just a historical recording. Valmiki Ramayana and Vedavyasa's Mahabharata is a historical recording. Why do we say it is historical? Because Valmiki was contemporary of Ram. He was there at that time. Tulsi Ramayana, Kamba Ramayana, Ananda Ramayana, and there are hundreds of other Ramayans which are written, which are descriptions of the poet according to their bhavana. So we call Valmiki Ramayana as the authentic one, authentic in the sense as the recorded history part, and Mahabharata because again Vedavyasa was there at that time. So that's why this categorization has been done.
What comes under Vedic literature?
All the mantras of the Vedas.
The Shruti, Smriti and...
No. Smriti, Purana, Itihasa different. In the Vedic literature, there are Karma Kanda mantras, Upanishad mantras, then there are Upasana mantras. That's a very different literature altogether. Rig Veda has nature worship. The mantras of Upanishads, the mantras of the Veda are different from the shlokas of the Smriti, are different from the shlokas of Itihasa, are different from shlokas of the Puranas. Yeah. Puranas are written by Veda Vyasa, 18 Puranas are there. Smritis are written by someone else. Different. Veda are only called Shruti because it is revealed knowledge. So anyway, our point of bringing this up here was to understand that the form has its own relevance, its own importance. It invokes bhavana, it invokes surrender, it invokes integration of human personality, which other objects may not be able to invoke. The conception of infinity and having all those attributes as I am worshipping Ishvara, who is Sarva Shaktiman, Sarva Vyapi, etc., cannot happen for the mic, cannot happen for the iPad, because it is Jada. But the form is Chetan. It is real, it is alive. And yes, definitely our Shraddha enforces that much more. That's why in a worship, Shraddha plays a very vital role. And that Shraddha comes when I have that conviction that yes, these forms do exist. That's why this whole discussion we are doing today. And why many forms? Because there are many temperaments of people, and I cannot be limited only by one form. If I don't like that form, I have a freedom to choose one form, any other form. Important is to choose one form. Please remember that. If I ask you God is one or many, what will you say? One. Pakka? God is one? Forms are? God is one, forms are many. Correct? But if I ask you that choose one form of yours, which is a favorite form, and remove all other forms from your puja room, then will you do? No. Why? Pray to others. See that? Because we will pray to others. Why can't you deny? That's what I'm telling you. If you are in a family, see, listen, if there is a common puja room and you remove all forms, then you may be doing injustice to other people who are worshipping other forms. I am not talking about that. I am talking about you as an individual. If you worship Shivji, let us say, and we tell you to remove all other forms, worship only Shivji, will you remove? Why will you not remove? Fear. Why fear? Because I still think that God is many. This answer that God is one, forms are many, is only a intellectual, superficial answer. I still feel that अरे गणेश को निकालेंगे तो पक्का I am telling you I will have obstacles in life. लक्ष्मी जी को निकाल देंगे तो पता नहीं पैसे कौन देगा. शिव जी तो फक्कड़ बाबा है, वो तो चुपचाप ध्यान करते रहता है. Who will give me money? उसके लिए तो मुझे लक्ष्मी ही चाहिए. Our mind still thinks in terms of duality, in terms of multiplicity. That fear still remains in our mind that how can I remove these forms? Forget all forms, one form only. You know, strange reason. Why people don't bring Ganpati to their house? Some of them. एक साल लाएंगे तो हर साल लाना पड़ेगा, इसीलिए ये साल भी मत लाओ. Very good. जो साल आप पूजा कर सकते हो, जिस साल आपका भावना हो सकती है, सरेंडर भी आ सकता है, why don't you bring and do it? नहीं बट वो प्रथा हो जाएगी और हर साल मैं ला नहीं पाऊंगा तो ये साल भी नहीं लाएंगे. अरे ये क्या बात हुई? Did भगवान से that मुझे एक साल लाओगे और अगले साल नहीं लाओगे तो मैं बहुत क्रोधित हो जाऊंगा? भगवान didn't say. And if that kind of Bhagwan is there, then there is no point in worshipping that Bhagwan. But we don't want to think all that, then we remain in bondage.
Should think Shiva and Shiva. Again, the human produce Lord Krishna's temple.
No, fear because it has been created by human Conditioning, na? Some pandit would have said, or some family person would have said, or somebody would have said कि भाई ये ट्रेडिशन है, आपको हर बार लाना पड़ेगा, आप नहीं लाओगे तो अनर्थ हो जाएगा, and बस I am stuck in that now. As though bringing Ganpati in the form in the house every year doesn't bring obstacles in any way. Obstacles to anyway are coming in my life. But these are the things one has to think through and get out of these superstitions. That it is not true. How many people are scared about that left sound Ganpati and right sound Ganpati? Hare Ram Ram. I don't know also which one. One of them, if you bring, you have to worship that form every day. Now why that was created is to make that person steadfast in that puja. Maybe out of fear he may start, but then that fear will be replaced by love at some point in time. So it is said कि okay, if you bring what right sound wala, no? Right one you have to do puja every day. So the tradition is set only so that because human mind is fickle, it will not do every day. So he says no, do every day. So you bring the right sound Ganpati and keep worshipping daily. But then people are scared of that also. Okay, now which is this sound here now? Chalo, left sound hai, koi dikkat nahi. Where we are talking about infinite being scientific, being rational and logic, and where we are stuck in this left sound, right sound, every year lao, nahi lao. The principle, if I understand, on the basis of that I should take the decision. That's all it is. The principle is that mind should become pure, mind should have surrender, and for that we use different festivals, we use different forms. So, ishta devta upasana, see Shankaracharya, I am not saying it by myself, I am no authority to say that remove all the forms, but I am saying it because Shankaracharya ji himself, what did he do? He created what we call as Shan Mata Sthapana. Because Hinduism has so many deities, we have freedom, which is our glory. That as Hindus, we can worship any form we like. But that freedom also works to our disadvantage, that we don't worship any form. Or we continue to worship multiple forms with the notion that God is many. Bhavna wise, I feel God is many only. So what Shankaracharya did to clear this kind of a confusion and to give a boost to our sadhana, he organized Hindu culture worship into 6 main streams. They are called Shan Mata. So he said Shaiva, that is those are followers of Shiva. Vaishnava, followers of Vishnu. Ganapatya, followers of Ganpati. Shakta, the followers of Devi. Shakta. Shakta is the followers of Devi, Shakti, na? So Shaiva, Vaishnavites, Ganapatya, Shakta, Saurya, that is the worshippers of Surya Devta, sun. And last is the worshippers of Kartikeya. Yeah, in south it is very big. Kartikeya is huge in the south. Shanmata. He created 6. Shanmata. These 6 forms, he said, in India you will find majority of followers will come under these 6 only. Now some new have come up, which is Ayyappa and all that. But Ayyappa also is the Harihara Putra only, Shiva and Vishnu combination it is. So now why did he do this? Why did he organize this whole thing into only 6? Because he said that if you are a Shaivite, follow only that. Not for the sake of fanaticism, but for the sake of single-pointedness. That's why you will find, unfortunately, that people who will worship Shivji will not even go to Vishnu temple. People who are Vaishnavites will not even look at Shivji. But the beauty is Shiva is the devotee of Vishnu, Vishnu is the devotee of Shiva. But the devotees of Shiva and Vishnu fight with each other.
Story, the Bhagavatam, that when we were building the house and two people were just lost in the forest, and one was Shiva and one was Vaishya. So they wanted to know, now after a long time they wanted to talk to each other. There was heavy rain, they cannot go anywhere, so they took shelter in one house. So one is saying that this house belongs to Shiva, because it's like 3 lines here and then the standing lines. So they said that both of them started arguing that it's, the beings are holding the room. So the Shiva is great. He said he gives the argument for the Vaishya is great. And like that, they destroys the house. It gets, drained out in the rain.
Yeah. So the reason why one is given is you stick to, from many forms come to one form. From one form you go into realization that I and that Lord are one. In sadhana you will get that boost if you choose one form.
To begin with, it is all right. But we should reach a stage that we see Him in 5 forms.
You see Him in all forms after that. Why only 5? But that will come when you choose that one form.
Very Krishna, there was same power happening.
That is true. That should happen that way. Ideally, that is what is the growth. One, if you choose one, tell me how many forms did Shankaracharya worship? Who was the ishta devta of Shankaracharya? Only Shivji. No, I am talking about daily worship. He may have written compositions on every form. That's the point I am trying to make. In his life as a personal sadhana, he did the worship of Shivji every day. But don't you see the compositions? He has written how many compositions on so many deities? Because the conception of infinity is very clear in his mind, and he is the same Shankaracharya who denies everything when he talks about Advaita. Denies the form, denies Ishvara, denies the world, denies individuality, and says the absolute truth only is the reality, there is nothing else. This clarity is very important. That when I am doing upasana, the purpose of upasana is to have purity of mind, the purpose of upasana is to have single pointedness, and for that one form is important. If I have any, especially in today's times, when we have limited time, 15 मिनट तो होता है सुबह को, वो भी पता नहीं कितने लोगों को होता है. But some people have 15 minutes, 20 minutes they will have in a day to worship. अब उसमें इतनी बड़ी पूजा रूम होगी. So what will you do? By the time you clean all the devtas and put flower on all the devtas and chandan on all the devtas, puja is over. If I choose one form, that 20 minutes I have, 5-10 minutes goes in whatever other, but other 10-15 minutes I have, I can do that worship, invoke that surrender, become quiet in my mind. So one form is very important if one believes in the form worship. If I don't believe in form worship and I say I am formless, what is the worship of the formless? Please tell me. What is the meaning of formless worship? Is it light? So do you think light is not a form? So it depends on how you use the mantra. You are using a sound. If you are not visualizing a picture, you are still using a sound. Some other picture will come in the front of your mind. Or blank will come. It is still a form, no? Yeah. I will come to one more aspect now, but I am just wanting you to understand what is formless worship. Then I will explain this sound and form and the connection and all that. Formless worship means what actually? Does it mean I visualize some light, some blank? That is in your understanding here. I am talking about when you sit quietly in meditation and you say that I am worshipping the formless. What does that mean? That I believe in formless, I don't believe in form. Because today majority is saying that denying, the intellectuals are denying form and saying I don't believe in form, forms are not required. But I believe in formless. What does that mean, formless?
The silence which we experience.
But what does that mean? State of awareness, you are in a state of awareness, so thoughts go round and round. So no thoughts is formless.
Making your mind completely still, having no thought.
How do you make that mind still?
Only by meditating.
How? If I am not using a support of name and form, how the mind becomes still? Okay, so use a breath. So breath, if I focus on, does that become formless worship? Breath doesn't have a form, breath doesn't have qualities. Is breath intelligent? Is breath sentient? Is breath God?
The silence which
You are using breath only to make the mind quiet for some time. Does that quiet mind mean formless? Sochi.
Then we thought the power is inside.
The power is inside us, but how are you tuning up to that power? Using the breath, do we say that that is a formless worship through which I am tuning up to that power inside me? In the understanding of Vedanta, formless worship is the use of pointers of the absolute truth, whereby the mind is guided to contemplate on the truth as Sat Chit Ananda, as my own self. If you just make the mind quiet and get it out again, that does not become formless worship, because that you are doing every day. In deep sleep, I am doing it effortlessly. Go into the state of deep sleep, become blank, again come back. Become blank, again come back. Right now in satsang, many of you may be blank. Kuch phale nahi pad raha, gone. Blank. The mind becomes blank, doesn't become formless worship. Thoughtlessness is not the goal that we are trying to reach. Please remember. A lot of people think that thoughtlessness is the goal of I want to reach. Thoughtlessness is not the goal we are trying to reach. We are trying to discover that awareness which is there in spite of thoughts, which is there in the presence of thoughts, which is there in the absence of thoughts also. That awareness is me, is the realization I want. Every day just to become thoughtless, that is not formless worship. But using the pointers of awareness like Sat, Chit, Anand, Nirgun, Nirakar, Nitya, Nirang, all those pointers we use and use them as me. That is called as formless worship. Because there I am not using a form, there I am not even using the mantra actually, I am using what is indicated by that mantra, using just the mantra. Like this is a stylus, and if I use this to show anything, then what will you see? Will you see the stylus or will you see what it is pointing to? What it is pointing to. Same way the mantra or the words are used to indicate that which is the absolute truth, and to know that absolute truth is me, that is called formless worship. Yeah, so use the pointers. Of all these pointers when we use, then the mind is lifted to that state of awareness and it drops by itself. Awareness remains, and that awareness is me, is the realization. That is actually called formless worship, and this is written in the 12th chapter of the Gita. You want more details on it, go through the 12th chapter of the Gita. Bhagavan will explain that in the first few verses only. And that's why he says there that people who are identified with the body, for them this formless worship is very tough. That is another reason why we need a form. As long as I have a form, God also has a form. It is impossible for me to worship the formless as long as I think I am a form. This is the answer that Ramana Maharshi gave when somebody asked him that does God have a form? So he asked him, do you have a form? He said, yes, I have a form. Then God also has a form. As long as I am a jiva having a limited form, God also has a form. The moment I see myself as the absolute formless, God also is formless. Hence the importance of form worship. And choosing from many forms to one form, mind becomes single pointed and pure. So in the beginning you are worshipping the form of the Lord, Shiva. But as the mind becomes pure and single pointed, that same Shiva becomes consciousness for me. And I realize that I am that Shiva. Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. So form worship will take us to the formless, and it goes beyond formless also into the realization. So formless is not the absolute state. Many people think that I reject the form, I am doing formless worship, I am done. No, formless also is a means. Absolute truth is beyond form and formless, because formless is concepts, form is a picture. So I will end with these four aspects in our culture, which are where we say that Sagun Sakar is the basic form of worship, where you worship God as with form and with qualities. Sagun is with qualities, Sakar is with form. So most of the people will need both these. That not only God should have form, but God should also have those ideals, those qualities which I look up to, which I want to imbibe. And not only they are human qualities, they are giving me the idea that this is Ishvara. It is not just human qualities that I want to imbibe, that I can imbibe from parents, from the nearby people, and from leaders, and from great people in this world. But that form represents Ishvara, because to that Ishvara only I will surrender. Hence Sagun Sakar worship is the first one. Then there are those who worship Sagun Nirakar. So Sagun Sakar worship is all the form worship that we do. Sagun Nirakar meaning God has qualities but no specific form. So Arya Samajis believe in that, Sagun Nirakar. So
Islam, they are very anti of form.
They are anti-form, but they are focusing on the direction. No, वो इसी direction में बैठेंगे, and they will visualize the Mecca.
But isn't the Mecca also in a form?
That's what I'm saying. So it is a form only. Yeah. That's why we have Shivalinga and Shaligrama, no human form, but it's still a form. So Sagun Nirakar meaning they worship nature as God, not as a human form. That's why they will worship Surya, they will worship Chandra, they will worship fire, they will worship all elements. So nature is worshipped. We think that it's a modern invention. I don't believe in God, I believe in nature. It is age old. There is nothing modern in this world, I am honestly telling you. New age philosophy and all that is the most ancient philosophy. Sagun Nirakar. Then third one is Nirgun Sakar. Nirgun Sakar is Om. There are no gunas associated, there are no qualities associated with it, but there is a form. So Om is the symbol of that. And final is Nirgun Nirakar. No quality also, no form also. Then what it is? Contemplate on the pointer Sat Chit Anand. Sachit Ananda is not a quality of God. He is the Swarupa of Bhagavan. And it is my own Swarupa. So human being, depending on the grossness of the mind, will move in these four levels only.
Can you call it soul?
What? I mean, obviously, awareness, soul, is same thing, no? It is. So human being will move in these levels. So we have to find out according to our temperament, according to our purity of mind, single pointedness. What is important, please remember, is not whether I am using form or formless or combination or what I am using. When Bhagavan was asked this question in the Gita by Arjun, that which is greater, form worship or formless worship? Most beautiful answer he gave. He said, that in which your mind abides. That is the worship that you have to do. Mai aveshya mano yemam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetaha teme yukta tamamataha. That those people are the supreme, are the best, not form worshipper or formless worshipper, but those are the best whose mind abides in whichever method of worship they are choosing. If I am worshipping the form, sagun and sakar, if my mind is fully absorbed in that and I am doing that with shraddha every day, nitya yuktaha, shraddhaya paraya, maya veshya manaha, that is the best. Through that I will come to realize the supreme. If my temperament is nirgun nirakar, and I can abide in that nirgun nirakar, in the meditation, the moment one says Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, mind becomes quiet, you lose the identification with the body, you are able to connect to that Sachidananda, then that is the worship that one should do. So which is the worship, which is the method in which my mind abides, that is the worship that I should do. Based on this, you have to choose either form or formless and connect to the Lord. So today I have covered about the form and the formless. There are 3 more aspects of this God which remain. So one more session we'll have to do on that, which is the concept of avatar, concept of devta, concept of kul devta. These 3 will still remain. But we can finish that in the next class in a short time. Next Sunday, 27th. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.